I started off PetSutra in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, prior to that, was working in corporate for about 10 years, and worked in PepsiCo, in Accenture Consulting, in DuPont, and I'm an alumnus of XLRI Jamshedpur,
Mm-hmm.
and also an engineer by profession. Though I think I remember zilch of engineering right now. There's nothing that I remember about that. 2016 was when I decided to take the plunge of entrepreneurship, and there were two ideas which were very, very close to my heart. One was to do something around the pet care industry, and this was from personal experience that, as a kid, we probably had not done justice while bringing up pets. And the second idea was to do something around education for, adults, and especially realizing the fact that a lot of folks post retirement, really don't have a clue as to what to do. So figuring out, which one was to do was important for me. So I said, let me do something good in the pet care space first, and probably give it a good 10 to 15 years in terms of creating a platform which could be trustworthy for pet parents,
Mm-hmm.
and which could ensure that the right information regarding nutrition, lifestyle, and behavioral needs is provided to pet parents, as well as um, the right assortment of products,
Right.
um, which is in line with the needs of pets. So
Right.
that was the idea, and that's how we started off Pet Sutra. It's been an interesting journey because we started off first with a solid tech platform, in order to ensure that we had this connection with all pet parents and subject matter experts. Did
Right.
that for a year, had some interesting insights around that, which was it was an app-based model
Mm-hmm.
where we wanted to connect pet parents to each other as well as to SMEs,
Mm-hmm.
and to answer all their questions via subject matter experts.
Right.
Realized it was something that was brilliant, but it had a lot of traction. Yet at the same time, being a bootstrap company, it was very difficult to sustain because the revenue model was not kicking in.
Right.
And as an entrepreneur, you need to also figure out how you look at revenue in order to ensure that the business is sustainable in the long run.
Right.
So did a pivot around that and said that, okay, let's go for the e-commerce model, and understand how we can better service pet parents. So from 2018 onwards, that is towards the second half of 2018, we pivoted towards the e-commerce model,
Mm-hmm.
where we said, let's get our learnings in terms of how do we, maximize whatever resources we have in order to ensure that we can service critical areas. And we started off small. We started off servicing a few geographies such as Delhi NCR, and slowly and steadily towards the end of 2019, we started Pan India service. The idea being that we figured out better and optimum ways of servicing pet parents, and also realized that with a certain amount of data that we had till now, we were able to predictively help pet parents in understanding what products would be good for their pets. So that was one thing that I thought made a huge difference because, depending on the age of the pet, so we capture such information. We capture the age of the pet, we capture the breed. We try as much as possible. It's not been possible in these conditions because things are like moving very rapid. But in pre-COVID times, we were trying to capture as much information in order to understand what would be the needs of a pet, and if there are certain interventions possible, which our customer care team could help out pet parents with. That is something that we wanted to do because a lot of time, unless it's seasoned pet parents, a lot of first-time pet parents are actually pretty confused about what choices to make,
Right.
and that's where we think we really want to help out people because um, a lot of purchases, a lot of products that are bought need to be evaluated not from the point of view of only what's the best that a pet should get, but also from the budget that a pet parent has, because that's a very critical aspect as well. But then how do you optimize that, and how do you get that sweet spot in terms of, what's the best that you can afford for your pet? Another very important realization we had was there are lots of nice smaller brands in India. There are lots of nice larger brands from abroad which have been imported into India by the importer community. They have, while they have made inroads, I think that's where PetSutra wants to work with them in order to ensure they capture larger space in the market, because there are some awesome products which Indian entrepreneurs as well as some foreign brands have brought to India. And that's where we want to see how do, we communicate the nutrition aspect of them. Because at the end of the day, the way things need to move is looking at the overall cost per meal per pet, rather than, a lot of people have that thing that, oh, I'm going to buy this expensive food, this is going to hit my budget. But what they don't realize is if you buy some good food, probably you don't need to buy a lot of supplements. Probably you don't need to visit a vet that frequently. Because if you're buying quality food with quality nutrition, your overall cost of medical expenses can also go down. The quality of life of the pet would also go better. Probably what you need to spend more on grooming, on supplements, that also goes down. So overall, it's a journey in which we are trying to say, how do we co-create this educational experience where, pet parents get confident via seeing, the actual visible changes, and probably become evangelists themselves in terms of, telling other pet parents around. And that's been an interesting one. We again also work with a lot of pet parents in terms of, at least requesting them that when you take a first time pet, we don't have trainers, but we keep on telling them, why don't you get your pet trained? Because it makes a huge difference. So for example, we get a lot of, initially we used to get a lot of queries from pet parents that, my pet is a aggressive chewer, destroys all toys, destroys everything. But then we need to go for the reason behind why the pet has become so aggressive.
Right.
And that's where a lot of emphasis in India, probably in the next 4 to 5 years, I see happening around training.
Right.
Because with nuclear families and with, pets living in communities which are very close-knit, probably high-rises, I think a well-behaved pet also is going to become something which is very, very important.
Yeah.
And pets are like kids. So like if, supposing you have a kid and your kid's like creating a ruckus in every party, I guess a parent's going to get embarrassed. I think it's going to come, the same thing's going to happen in pets, because you're going to want a sweet, lovable pet, as well as you would want that, people around are not threatened.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people in the ecosystem of training, in the ecosystem of, behavioral sciences of pets coming up and doing a lot of good stuff. And I think the dependence of the entire community will increase significantly on them. Very similarly about grooming, because what I've seen is there are some awesome products in grooming which are like paraben-free, sulfate-free. On the other hand, there are products where, you would have a second thought as to, is this product even worth it?
Yeah.
But that's where, it's for a decision for a pet parent to understand how to read the label. And that's our objective.
Yeah.
Read the label before you buy the product. Is it good for your pet? And I think a lot of folks, we're not the only ones doing it. I think a lot of folks in the industry who are conscientious companies, I would say, have now started, talking about reading the label, because that's important. That's really, if you're doing it for ourselves, if you're saying that, okay, we want to check whether this product has selenium or excess of zinc or excess of magnesium, that's something that we should also check for our pets. And similarly, I think people would start understanding that, if you're buying, the biggest area where I think a lot of improvement can come, and is coming, with a lot of, folks coming in, responsible manufacturers also coming in, is cookies. Cookies and biscuits is a segment. And we've had this discussion offline before also, Shruti, that, you'll have cookies which are produced like at, 10 to 15 rupees a kg.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they sell at probably about 80 to 150 rupees a kg or whatever. The point is, what can you produce for 15 rupees a kg? That's a question in itself. If it's going to be pure glucose laden biscuits, I'm not so sure they're good for their pets. Because, for example, when we were kids, we were not aware, and we would, say, "Acha, we want to feed this stray or we want to feed this pet. Why don't you just get the glucose biscuit you have in hand, and why don't you feed it to the pet?" Now, that's really not good for the pet. In a very similar vein, I guess it's going to be very important that people start seeing that, okay, fine, I'm paying X for this product. It may not be that safe. Let me pay 1.2x, but let me get a good product which is, good for the nutrition and does not harm the pet.
Yeah.
So good changes I'm seeing, and the best thing I'm seeing right now especially in the last 2 years is, when I started off, I felt that there were very few people who were thinking along these lines. But the more, at least in the last year or so, I've met people, I've realized, yes, there is this this avalanche which is about to come, in which people are now going to talk about good products. It's just the beginning, and I can see this happening in the next 2 to 3 years.
Right.
Yep. So that's a bit about PetSutra till now.